Hey everyone, I'm Cyanide, and lately I've been getting into the idea of becoming a doubles player in Pokemon instead of singles. I was just getting a little tired of the pace of singles matches. Say for instance, if I had a Pokemon out that I wanted to use to do a lot of damage to their team, and then they switch in a Pokemon that just soaks up all the damage I was trying to do, so then I have to switch out to something that counters their wall, and then they can just switch into something else. It was all very tedious, especially when it turned into a loop, and especially when the walls had recovery, because then I could barely even do chip damage. Doubles seems a little more exciting to me because it's a lot more punishing to waste turns in doubles, because each turn both players have two Pokemon out on the field that are vulnerable to attacks. And because you have two Pokemon on the field and you have two targets on the other side, it seems like there is a lot more ways to make progress each turn compared to singles. Doubles also being the official format of competitive Pokemon also makes it pretty interesting. This is because I get to play online against other people in-game. So to dip my toes into competitive doubles, I've decided to watch a tournament. This is the San Diego VGC Regional Championships. The idea is that we're just going to be watching the kinds of decisions that the higher level players are going to make, and hopefully if I can try to understand what they're doing, then maybe I could be able to apply it when I start playing. I have watched whatever was broadcasted of the whole tournament, but today we are going to be watching the semifinals. The grand finals was really fun and exciting to watch, but then there were a lot of risky players that the players had to make, so I'm not sure if learning from that set's necessarily the best idea. So then basically what I was doing was whenever I could, before the match, I would try to see what kind of Pokemon both players had, and then try to figure out how the match would play out from there. That's just so I could think of if there are any overarching strategies and what kind of matchups that the players are going to look out for. And then I'll try to see how close my thought process was to a high level players when I see the match actually play out. So here we have the team sheet. So basically I get to see all the moves, and luckily I get to also see their stats of all the Pokemon that's going to be in these games. So looking at these teams, it looks like Judy is going to have a really quite the uphill battle here. When I look at these teams, it looks like he isn't going to have a really good answer against Dondozo and Tatsugiri. So here he has Palafin, which has Haze, which can eliminate the stat boosts of Dondozo once Tatsugiri comes in. But then, as you can see, it only has water type attacks, so then it's not really going to do much to Dondozo, and especially not Tatsugiri. So it can remove the stat changes, but that doesn't really help when basically everything else gets pretty walled. You have Amoonguss, which does have Leaf Storm, but then it can just Terra type into a Dragon type if it does. And Salamence could be a pretty interesting idea because it has Draco Meteor, which can deal substantial damage unlike everything else in the team. And especially into Dondozo's Unaware, it won't feel Salamence's stat drops. But then other than that, if it doesn't get a one-hit knockout, Dondozo could just order up into Salamence. And then Salamence could choose to go into the Steel type, but Dondozo also has Earthquake. So if Dondozo lives, then Salamence is still going to have a really hard time actually knocking it out, in my opinion. And then after Dondozo comes out, that's only the first step, because then Salamence will have to deal with Tatsugiri right after that. And this Tatsugiri is Choice Scarf, so it's probably going to be faster than basically everything on this team. Now, Salamence and Pelipper both have the option to Tailwind, but I'm not sure how effective that'll be, with Dondozo probably being able to live a couple turns and being able to use Order Up, which will increase his speed with the stretchy form of Tatsugiri. And if Tatsugiri Icy wins, then those Tailwinds are pretty much going to be useless anyway. And because this team is generally slow and everything, I don't know if there's going to be a way to stop Pomo from Revival Blessing something back up, especially if it's going to be Dondozo. So I think for Judy's team, King Gambit is going to be a pretty big MVP here, because King Gambit walls Meowscarada and Goldango pretty well. It also wouldn't really care about Arcanine that much in this situation if we have Pelipper on the field as well. And if it's raining, then fire attacks do half as much damage. So King Gambit isn't really going to be super affected by anything against Arcanine. And if it intimidates, King Gambit is going to get an attack boost from Defiant. And if it snarls, it's going to do the same thing, but even more. But going back to Pomo, between Double Shock and Close Combat, basically nothing except for Amoonguss is going to resist it. But then I don't know if Amoonguss is really going to be able to accomplish that much, especially if Pomo threatens the Revival Blessing. Amoonguss is probably not going to stop that. So I'm thinking that a couple of ideas that Judy could probably use against the Dondozo is we are probably going to need the Palafin anyway, even if we might not be doing that much damage, just so we could get the Haze off onto Dondozo. And then maybe we could use Amoonguss as well. But one thing about Amoonguss is that we have Spore, but then this Dondozo is ready to rest up at any time because it also is carrying the Chesto Berry. So even if we Spore them once, then it could just wake up right again afterwards. So in this matchup from Judy's side, I kind of expect either Golden Go or Pelipper to come out on the first turn. I think Wide Guard is going to be good against the Dondozo and Make It Rain, and what was the other one? Snarl and Icy Wind. And also, if we are going to stop Pommel from Revival Blessing something back up, we might have to outspeed it so we can get 2 attacks in to break the Focus Sash and finish it off. And then Golden Go, just because Pelipper is really weak against Pommel, and I expect Pommel to be on the lead because basically nothing walls it. And then Goldengo is like kind of okay against Pommel. Even though basically everything except for Meowscarada resists Make It Rain on Chuppa's side, I think it could still probably see an appearance just because of Pommel. But then both of these Goldengos are gonna speed tie. So I'm not really sure how comfortable each player would be bringing in the Goldengo. But Judy might not have a better choice than that. And then I expect King Gambit to come out just because it's really good against like a few of these options like Goldengo, Meowscarada, and Arcanine. And then in the back, I expect Palafin and Amoonguss to be in the back to try to deal with the Dondozo Kitty combination. So on this side, I expect Palmo to come out and Meowscarada, just because I think this pair can threaten the other team pretty well. Meowscarada doesn't have like any particularly special coverage against the other team, but it just seems like a pretty safe option because it is fast and strong, so it could probably deal a lot of damage anyway. And then I think Dondozo and Tatsugiri is going to be in the back. So one thing I think that's going to be pretty scary from Chuppa's side is that Tatsugiri has Soak, which will turn any Pokemon into a water type, unless it's Terrassalized, but then you have to commit a Terrassalization. And then Meowscarada, of course, is fast and strong, and could probably Flower Trick something. And with Tatsugiri being very fast as well with the Choice Scarf, that could be a very toxic combination. So that's kind of what I expect the overarching strategy to be from both ends and what kind of matchups they're looking out for. So let's see how it plays out when they're actually... So let's see how it plays out during the actual match. Alright, so the game's about to start, and Pommel and Meowscarada is coming out. Just as I expected. Palafin's out, and it's probably just gonna try to get a flip turn in, right? Okay, so let's see. Pommel is in a good position to just fire off a what do you call it? Close combat, I think, into King Gambit. King Gambit doesn't have a particularly good Terra type against this, because if it loses its natural typing, then it's gonna get hit hard by Meowscarada's choice attacks, especially if it U-turns. Palafin's actually threatened pretty hard by both Pokemon on the other side too, so instead of flip turning, it's probably just going to want to switch out to get into its hero form. So this is already pretty rough from Jody's side already, because King Gambit is in a spot where it's either going to take a lot of damage from Pommel or potentially a lot of damage from Meowscarada. Its best bet might just be to switch in Amoonguss already, but then if that happens, I'm not sure what Palafin would switch into right now this turn either. Alright, I switched the recording layout again, but let's see what happens.
It's a cool opportunity for Chuppa here where you almost have to hard switch the Palafin, right? I think it'd be ill-advised to try to flip turn into Palma Meowscarada, so almost for sure has to hard switch. Chuppa has no information other than the 2 Pokemon he's seen here, but it's a big opportunity, right? Palafin, when he comes back in, is going to be much more powerful, so what can he get out of this forced switch?
It's going to be the Amoonguss.
Okay, so Palafin switches into Amoonguss, and immediately they withdraw King Gambit. Also, he does bring in Salamence. So I think this is probably one of the best situations for Salamence to be on the field in, because Salamence is threatened pretty hard by the Dozo Gyuri. Like, both individual Pokemon deal a lot of damage to it. Alright, now to see what the Meowscarada switches into. Goldengo. Goldengo is really good against both of these Pokemon, Salamence and the Amoonguss, because Amoonguss basically can't do anything. Grass moves, poison moves, bug moves, anything. Or Spore. It can't Spore it either. And the Salamence, it has Draco Meteor and Hurricane. Both things are also resisted by Steel. But now we're... so now Goldengo is really safe to basically do anything. It does have Nancy Plot, so it can set up, but Pommel isn't really in a situation where it can do much itself. So they brought in Arcanine.
Which won't be super impactful here with these 2 special attacking Pokemon, but could at least get Arcanine out ready to threaten damage onto this Amoonguss.
Yeah, that is going to be a important.
Alright, and now that we know that Jody doesn't have a Pelipper,
especially when you know that the Salamence relies on.
Now we know that basically its fire type attacks will be just as effective as it should be.
Draco Meteor for its troubles, coming down under half. Salamence's special attack going down drastically, and some of its health going away to that life orb as well. The Golden Go.
He does nasty plot.
Wanting to be the big focal point of this team, I think is really important. As Amoonguss does throw the Pollen Puff out towards the Arcanine, not very effective.
I think they just tried to finish off Pommel if it wanted to stay on the field, but yeah. Arcanine took those hits really well. And now Salamence is at -2. Actually, Choppa didn't even bring Dondozo or Tatsugiri. I'm a little surprised because I thought Dozukiri would have been really good into Judy's team.
Pretty nice spot, and now it can kind of just start wailing away.
If Goldengo tries to use Make It Rain here, can Gambit and Palafin both resist it?
At some point, you don't want to really get it caught up
Huh.
with Palafin. It's just going to get checked and knocked out anyway. Where probably at some point in the game it gets switched out, kind of just becomes a sacrifice for a free Intimidate. So this damage, it doesn't really cost much.
Not the worst at all, but we are going to see one of the first terrors of this semi-final is the Golden Go over on Choppa's side of the field, becoming the Steel Terror as we've seen before.
Yeah, there's basically no downside for this Goldengo to Terra into Steel type right now, because there's no extra notable resistances that the Ghost type gives. And then it can just boost its damage. Huh. But with the Nasty Plot, Make It Rain, Steel Terra, it might just be over for these two Pokemon on the field. Oh my god, it is, yeah. Now King Gambit and Palafin are going to take the field. It's a little unfortunate that Arcanine isn't going to be able to go on the field to intimidate the Palafin, but then it wouldn't want to do that against King Gambit's Defiant. Now Make It Rain shouldn't really do too much, but then at this point you can just probably let Goldengo die because it's done its job, and then it can just try to deal as much damage as it can from here.
The hero is going very, very fast, and he is going to be able to cause a...
And it almost feels like it's the same story for Arcanine too. But is there a reason you might want to save Arcanine? The way you could save it is to switch in Meowscarada, expecting Palafin to do a water type move into it. But then you might not even need to take that risk, and then you might just want Pomo and Meowscarada to come in for free. But these two Pokemon do have Grass Terra type, so is that something you might want to bait out and then switch Arcanine in afterwards? Wow, that barely did anything. I'm really surprised. So I was wondering, I was thinking Meowscarada and Arcanine side by side could be a pretty threatening duo, because both of these Pokemon resist King Gambit resists Meowscarada and is super affected by Flower. Palafin is super affected by Flower Chick, and they both have Grass Terra. So I was wondering if he wanted Arcanine to stay alive until Goldengo died, so Meowscarada could come in for free and not take damage before it needs to. And then both Pokemon would be in a situation where if they Terra, they could still get threatened by Arcanine's Flare Blitz. So he chose to just let the Arcanine die. I wonder if it would have been a better choice to try to make it live for a longer, but I'm not sure. These are the high-level players we're talking about.
For the knockout, absolutely crucially. That said, I mean, the Pormots coming in could buy a little bit of time with that fake out. That is going to be...
Oh, I keep on forgetting about Revival Blessing though.
Yeah, it's kind of still an awkward situation though.
So even though King Gambit does have priority, and Palafin too, it could try to do like a 1-2 punch onto Pomo, but King Gambit's priority is Sucker Punch, and if it uses Revival Blessing, Sucker Punch will fail. So Pomo can get a Revival Blessing before the other two Pokemon can even knock it out. Would it want to get Arcanine back, or would it just want to try to threaten King Gambit? It looks like he's leaning towards the Revival Blessing.
Yeah, this is such an interesting two Pokemon pin because it's so hard to ignore Golden Go. You kind of have to knock it out. It's like, I guess you don't have to, but it's very tough to resist that. But if you all in Golden Go, yeah, and just allow a free Revival Blessing, and we've seen how that can turn out.
Yeah, well, Golden Go going with the Protect right here.
Huh.
being able to keep itself safe.
I wonder why he wanted...
And Jet Punch will just go
Whoa.
into the Palmer.
I wonder why he
So
wanted
Sucker Punch is not going to be
Goldango
effective.
to stay
That
alive for
means
another turn
Palmer
instead of
is given the
attacking.
time. It gets one opportunity, and it's Revival Blessing. So it is going to be, of course, the Arcanine, the only thing available right now. So that is going to be a late game Intimidate as well to try and shut down Chopper. Opening up, that Sucker Punch was not the way to go.
So, if these Pokemon die, I wonder how they're gonna... If Pomo dies, I wonder how they're gonna get rid of the Kingambit.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge advantage now.
Because Meowscarada and Goldango are resisted by Kingambit's natural typing. And then if Arcanine dies before it can take care of it, huh.
You know, it looked like, obviously with the amount of damage down, that 3-2, definitely a little bit closer than it may look. The Palafin is super low though, and you know, you're going to have to find some room. I think getting the Meowscarada in at some point is really the key here for Chopper. Being able to, you know, just take a Jet Punch quite comfortably would be very nice for him here. But there it is.
Okay, so Meowscarada switches in there.
Jet Punch will go towards it. Just still take over half. That's pretty preposterous. Oh, the critical
Yeah,
hit.
it wasn't that comfortably, but there's a reason for it.
Yeah, the cleave coming through with the Tailwind obviously helping out this Kingambit as Goldengo is taken out. So of course,
It is a little unfortunate that Pomo doesn't have Tech there.
Per game, rightfully so, but the Tailwind is over. I think what's interesting here is, you know, there is of course a
Oh,
lot
I
of
forgot.
priority
Salaman's set up Tailwind. I didn't realize.
about targeting and looking at the team, you know, what does he do on this tough turn or the later turn where Pormont is going to come in and be able to fake things out?
Alright, Meowscarada does have Sucker Punch, so if Palafin ever tries to go for another Jet Punch, then Meowscarada can knock it out before it does that. And then from there, I think the last two Pokemon could threaten Kingambit to get a knockout. So then I think you're supposed to take care of Palafin first, so the last two Pokemon can deal with Kingambit. Arcanine is at half health, which is why I think it's important to make sure it doesn't die from Palafin. Oh.
Save it for very, very late. As Arcanine's extreme speed goes before Jet Punch, doesn't matter, just able to knock out the Palafin. So not such a great showing for it in this one, as Kingambit is left a whole lot of work to do. Gonna be
I am surprised that the targeting went the other way around than I thought it was going to play out. So Kowtow Cleave, and now Kingambit doesn't really have to worry about Meowscarada. Especially now that it's knockoff and it's choice locked, it's not going to be doing a lot of damage. So if Pomo dies... okay, Pomo can fake out though. And then Kingambit can attack for a turn. But after that, will the Sucker Punch from a Defiant boosted Kingambit kill Pomo when it tries to close combat it? I think Kingambit could win this.
Able to protect the Kingambit, it is the Assault Vest variety, so wouldn't have access to that protect. And
wow, because Pomo doesn't have a choice. Oh.
Right now.
Choppa going for the fake out here, predicting a Sucker Punch
So
should fail if it targets it.
Yeah, Meowscarada going for the knockoff though, so getting that damage.
oh, okay.
And then the Kingambit.
Oh, okay, so what happened there was a pretty interesting turn, actually. So then... Jody knows that Meowscarada is just going to keep on clicking knockoff, and Kingambit can take that like a champ. So Kingambit's only choice to beat Pomo is to attack it with Sucker Punch. Choppa kind of read into that and used Fake Out. I thought that he wouldn't really have the ability to not get Sucker Punch there, just because he had 3 attacking moves yet. But if Fake Out fails, because this is the second turn that Pomo's been on the field, then Sucker Punch would fail too. And then if Meowscarada does just keep chipping over and over again while Pomo threatens the close combat but could fail with its Fake Out, where was I in that thought? But anyway, Jody also read into that, and he used Kowtow Cleave to not have Sucker Punch fail, so he could kill Pomo. And now, after this turn, Meowscarada should be the only one left. That is an insane read. Both players knew that Sucker Punch was the make it or break it. So I think at this point, Jody should win, and Chuppa does forfeit. Wow, that was an impressive read to finish out the match, but I thought Jody's back was pinned against the wall. So yeah, that's why I thought King Gambit was going to be an important Pokemon in this game, because it counters Meowscarada and Goldengo. And you could see there that towards the end, when King Gambit was on the field, both of those Pokemon didn't really do much. But just as I was thinking, Pommel was really dangerous throughout the whole game, pretty much. I am a little surprised that Salamence came out, just because Tatsugiri is faster and has Draco Meteor itself, and Dondozo has Earthquake to cover for its Steel Terra type. But that Tailwind was just as important as I thought it would be, because with faster Pokemon like Palafin and Goldengo, like a Pokemon that aren't faster than Pommel but is faster under Tailwind, then it could threaten Pommel for real. I still wonder if Pelipper would have brought more utility though. I'm not sure. So in the next game, I do expect Dozo and Ngiri to come out. I wonder if Jody is gonna stick with the Salamence pick. I do expect the other three to probably be the same. Okay, Amoonguss and King Gambit. If Amoonguss is coming out, I wonder if Palafin's in the back, but Meowscarada and Pommel, pretty much as I expected. Alright, so Amoonguss can Rage Powder here, and then, but the only thing is that how much damage can King Gambit deal in return? If that happens, maybe it could try to Iron Head Meowscarada. If it tries to use one of its Dark, oh, it could low kick. It could low kick. Oh, but Pommel can also fake out Amoonguss. But if it does that, what can Meowscarada do with that extra turn of free time? I'm thinking Pommel could fake out into King Gambit, and then Meowscarada might want to U-turn into something.
Threaten to knock out the King Gambit with Amoonguss there. Meowscarada has a little bit more free reign, but we saw how much damage it was doing to King Gambit last game. I think it's a really nice lead for Jody to start out this game, where Chuppa's going to have a hard time doing anything without shuffling around a little bit.
It's going to be a tough one to get that easy damage off, and I really do think Chuppa's committed to this shuffling.
Oh man, but Amoonguss could Spore at any time. So King Gambit's going out just because I'm guessing the threat of Pommel. Okay, so Salamence is back to intimidate both physical attackers. And the fake out goes into the person who just switched in, so it's basically not going to stop anything from happening. But Spore's about to come out. I'm thinking Spore's about to come out because Rage Powder, which has an extra priority, or however many levels of priority, didn't happen yet. So what's it sporing into? And I guess it doesn't have to Rage Powder if Salamence can come in and take a good hit. Oh, okay, but Spore goes into Pommel. And very good of Chuppa to bring in Goldengo, just in case he suspected the Spore was going to come into that slot. Pommel he didn't really have much control over.
Yes, Jody picking the correct one there, and this Pommel, you know, if you can get rid of it early, get rid of that revival blessing, I think he's going to be in an even better position than he has been in a couple of, maybe even the last game.
Yeah, I mean, he's dreaming.
Oh, so he only has Tatsugiri and not Dondozo.
Just having a Palmot that can't do anything out in the field for 2 consecutive turns is going to.
So he switched out Pommel because I think it was going to be dangerous to just have a partner to Goldengo that wasn't going to contribute much. Oh, but King Gambit comes out, and King Gambit's good against both these Pokemon. Oh, and I just one-shot. Aww. Alright, and then we saw that, or we can see that Tatsugiri is not accompanied by Dondozo.
Another Pokemon is not sleeping. I gotta keep in mind, we don't see it too often. It does have
And from here, I'm not too sure what's gonna happen actually, because if Tatsugiri comes in, it could try to Icy Wind, which is nice and all, but then it is threatened by Salamence, definitely. So here, I think I just kind of want to watch, because I'm not sure what's gonna happen here.
racking up damage with these huge Make It Rains, landing that from the now boosted Golden Go. I think I Make It Rain here. Definitely, you know, pick up the Salamence, get good damage.
So I think Golden Go is gonna Terrasilize
with your special attack.
because nothing else, or actually, because King Gambit can't kill Goldengo in one turn if it's Terrasalized. And then, oh, King Gambit's gonna be withdrawn. I was expecting Make It Rain and Close Combat. Oh, Pommel's back up. So I forgot it has Natural Cure. So when it switched out, it was cured of its status, which was Sleep. Okay, so Salamence is now a Steel type. But that does make it weak to Pommel's fighting moves. I think that was a better play to make, especially considering that Dondozo, if Dondozo was in the back, which is not, it has Earthquake. And now that you know that it's not in the back, what am I trying to say? Oh, I'm actually surprised that Goldengo didn't Terrasilize too. Maybe, wow, so did he know that King Gambit was going to switch out that turn? I thought there was a chance that, oh, King Gambit probably wasn't going to Terrasilize because if it Terrasilizes into a grass type, then it wouldn't resist the Make It Rain anymore. Can you guys understand what I'm saying? Because I'm like talking while I'm thinking out loud, but then I keep on like bouncing between things because I'm just trying to make sense of it all.
Hey, you know, maybe Tailwind's enough. Maybe it doesn't need to be in its alter ego form for this game.
I think it needs to be there to be useful.
But
of course, you know, with the
so now that
able to potentially bounce out with the flip turn.
I wonder if Revival Blessing can still be an important part of this game. I thought there was a chance that if Arcanine was gonna come in, well, we knew that it wasn't. Flip turn, okay. So the only thing it can switch into is King Gambit. But, huh. Tatsugiri. Oh, Draco Meteor straight into Tatsugiri. Oh man. Wow.
With the choice scarf, probably would have been faster than the King Gambit and very difficult.
Oh, and a Shadow Ball into King Gambit. Ooh. Okay, so Pommel, I think it's gonna have to Revival Blessing something. But both of these guys that it could Revival Blessing into is gonna be pretty weak. But Pommel is such a big threat in itself against these two Pokemon that it might just want to use a turn to attack instead of wasting a turn to revive something and possibly getting brought down to Focus Sash. Is Tailwind up? I honestly, like, because I'm talking out loud, I can't really focus as well as when I'm just like quiet. Okay, so that's a really low special attack Draco Meteor. So that lived. Oh, it knocked itself out with Life Orb. Oh. Oh, okay.
The King Gambit is going to drop its defenses as well. So the King Gambit getting nothing accomplished that turn, and it's all down to the hero Pokemon. It is going to be the Golden Go setting up.
Oh, and Chuppa used Nasty Plot because he knew the other two Pokemon are going to faint that turn. Oh my god, he knew that Salamence was going to knock itself out in Recoil.
Just use that Revival Blessing. I don't think you can make a 1v3.
Is Tailwind up though?
Yeah, but also, I mean, you know, Jody's side of the field too. It's also an electric type Pokemon fighting a water type Pokemon.
So Palafin is pretty screwed here, I think, because it's really between a rock and a hard place.
And pushes through to the game 3 here in the semifinals.
I wonder if it could have tried to Revival Blessing.
See if you can help that.
I wonder if Pommel could have tried to Revival Blessing Yaskarada in. But then it looks like it's gonna end this turn either way because Palafin can only knock out one Pokemon at a time with its moves, and it chooses Pommel. But then Goldengo with its super high amount of special attack boosts then it should be able to knock it out with a Shadow Ball anyway.
Presence of this battle is definitely a blessing for Chepa.
Yeah, the Shadow Ball will come through 3 stages of increase.
I guess trying to go for a Revival Blessing would have been a risk into Meowscarada. Because then, if one Jet Punch could finish off Meowscarada, that would be good. And then the Revival Blessing would be a waste. So I guess finishing it in one turn for sure was just a good idea. Just to not overcomplicate things and make sure he gets the win. And I think he Electric Terrestrialized there just to make sure that it one-shot the Palafin. The Palafin's also max speed investment, or well, with an adamant nature and max attack. So I wonder if having a more defensive Palafin with more HP would have made it live that Shadow Ball or either one of those attacks. Alright, so I expect Dondozo to come in sometime because it just looks so strong against the other team. I'm shocked that it hasn't come out yet. I wonder why he chose to not bring it in though, Chepa. I wonder why Chepa chose to not bring it in yet.
So far, I think both games, Meowscarada always arrives late, I'm told, but maybe a little bit earlier than this.
Alright, so Salamence straight off the bat, and Pomo and Goldengo. So, what did he think was wrong with the Meowscarada lead? Oh, actually no, yeah, the Meowscarada, last time he did have Amoonguss and Kingambit, right? And then those two Pokemon did do really well against Meowscarada. So, maybe that's why he wanted to go with the Goldengo instead. Salamence is out, which means that Goldengo's gonna resist whatever Salamence can throw at it. But they have an opposing Goldengo, which is always really scary, especially because this is a speed tie. Both of them have maximum speed investments. I wonder which Goldengo is gonna end up doing more work. But Pomo, what is Pomo gonna do in this turn? Oh, okay, we'll fake out, yes. But then after that, I'm not sure if Pomo is gonna accomplish that much. Oh, but Jody's Goldengo is kind of threatened to either Terrasilize into Steel from Chepa's Goldengo threatening it with Shadow Ball. Whose is that? And then if Jody's Goldengo Terrasilizes it into Steel, then it's threatened by Pama's Close Combat. Okay, so that was Chepa's Goldengo. And Pomo is still faster. And because Salamence was faked out, it can't Tailwind. Okay, so that was a little interesting to just let take a hit and Nasty Plot, because he probably feels good about it because he's maximum speed invested, and not everyone always invests fully into their speed, so he might not know if this is a speed tie. Oh, but that Shadow Ball did do considerably less than half. But Salamence can still attack before Goldengo can. Ooh, that sucks. So he switched out Goldengo even though it had boost. So basically it didn't do anything for the whole time it was out. Wow, that did a lot of damage. But now Pomo is threatened by Hurricane from Salamence. And it doesn't resist Make It Rain either. Huh. And Dondozo still didn't come out. So we saw three of Chepa's Pokemon, and then here we see it also has Tatsugiri. Oh, Dondozo just never came out. That's weird. I thought Dondozo was gonna be so strong into Jody. After this game, I think I have to think about that. So, I think Chepa right now is hovering over Sucker Punch. Even though Knockoff would be like a more guaranteed way of dealing with Goldengo. But with Tailwind, Goldengo should be faster than Meowscarada here. And then I didn't actually see what Meowscarada ended up clicking. So Palmot leaves. I think that was a pretty good choice. Because Pomo really wasn't gonna be doing much. Oh, but like, now it revealed that it was gonna use Sucker Punch.
Will do some big damage, but there was no boost. He didn't work in a nasty plot.
So Choppa's Goldengo really isn't threatened by much this turn. Because Amoonguss really doesn't do anything into it. And the other Goldengo does have a special attack drop. Can a Shadow Ball still kill Choppa's? Yeah, so Meowscarada has to switch out because it's locked into Sucker Punch, and Jody can kind of abuse that by just doing other stuff. Oh, so Jody is actually going to Terrasilize his Goldengo, so I think he's still going to attack, because he doesn't want to
but certainly in a great position right now.
He doesn't want to get super affected by Sucker Punch.
Will protect, doesn't want to mess around with that one, as it is going to be another Make It Rain. Even with the special attack drop, this is still going to really hurt the very frail Palmot, and it's going to come down and just get the extra bits of damage down.
Wow, for a -1, that was a lot. It was a crit, so the -1 didn't matter. Pomo was dealt full damage, plus crit, plus Terra. So that's pretty unfortunate, because Pomo could have probably taken considerably less damage if that crit didn't land, especially because Goldengo was already had their special attack dropped. But now what is Pomo gonna do? Is Pomo gonna have to switch out again?
Being able to throw that out in finals is the winning move, maybe, is where we're going with it. But Jody taking his Goldengo off the field, obviously picking up those special.
Okay, Tailwind's gonna go out soon, but I'm not sure when.
But the Salaman's coming in and feeling pretty good about itself there. Obviously able to land another.
Oh, Intimidate, so Pomo's gonna do even less?
Help out a little bit.
But Pomo is switching out. Okay. But now, what is Meowscarada gonna do?
But if the Meowscarada gets caught by any attack here, then it's just going to get knocked out because it's so low from earlier. Goldengo especially.
Oh, Goldengo is still going to be pretty resistant against both other Pokemon.
Misses the Meowscarada, and we're back after a couple switches with no Tailwind.
So now, Goldengo should live this turn, I think. So it could probably fire off a free Make It Rain. Oh, Meowscarada has to turn out again. Wow. That's unfortunate. That slot, the one that just kept switching between Meowscarada and Pomo, very unfortunate, because then that side of the field basically wasn't doing much, that quarter of the field. Alright, so King Gambit is the last Pokemon out. Whoa! Amoonguss is out. Is Tailwind gonna go out this turn?
That's an amazing play where Palma gets in safely, and it's actually a lot better that it happened the way it did for Choppa, where if Meowscarada had been knocked out, Palma gets in anyway, but now Fake Out's available. Like, having the hard switch really helped him because it moved the Fake Out turn one later.
Yeah, the Fake Out turn being available here without obviously having access to the Ghost typing on Goldengo means you can Fake Out either of these Pokemon and start causing problems. So really enjoying the way that Choppa's been playing this one out.
Yeah, I mean,
so I forget if Tailwind is still up, but Pomo, if Tailwind goes down, once Tailwind goes down, then it could threaten basically the entire rest of the team with close combat. But Salamence is still alive, so that might be hard to do.
King Gambit can't choose to Sucker Punch both Pokemon.
Yeah, that is annoying. If only it could do both. As the Goldengo on Choppa's side keeps itself safe.
Oh, so King Gambit doesn't choose Sucker Punch? But that basically means that Pomo is finished this turn. I guess that's fine because Salamence is gonna come out anyway.
Not relevant. As Goldengo over on Jody's side will fire off the Make It
And
Rain.
Choppa
The thing
protected
here
this
is
Make
it's
It
gonna be
Rain, but it still hits
special
Pomo.
attack
So
buff.
Golden Go is
Not
gonna get that
perfect.
special attack
Game
drop still. I wonder if that's gonna
knocked
matter.
out. It's still going to be a 3v2 situation for Jody though.
Huh.
trying to
So
fight
I
back,
think
and he's gonna summon
Tatsugiri might
this
come
fight.
out.
Golden Go with its health getting rapidly lower.
Okay.
Last Pokemon yet. We've seen it.
Huh.
We're seeing it
Yes.
right now, in fact, as it comes into battle here. But you know, it's a
If
tough one.
Meowscarada does
Tatsugiri
happen to be one of the last
could have
Pokemon
been
alive,
Tatsugiri is a
I think he
reasonably
could
likely
knock
outcome,
off
but,
to
you know,
get
it's
the
a tough
last
spot
couple
here where it's
knockoffs,
the
maybe.
quickest Pokemon on the field now could threaten a bunch of damage to either these
Salamence
Pokemon,
came in,
it's,
and
again, we're in a
Tatsugiri
situation where,
took the Intimidate, so
Golden Go is
Meowscarada
really
could
the,
knock off at full power.
the most
It just has to be
likely
faster.
threat on
Salamence has to go down before it can set up another
Tailwind,
Tailwind, I think. Icy Wind could do that because it's 4 times effective,
And there's
even
no
though it's a weak
tailwind, so
move.
this, Tatsugiri
But-
comfortably the fastest thing. Salamence
Oh.
forced into the protect here, so making sure that it doesn't take too much damage on this one. Tatsugiri going with the Icy Wind here, obviously would do huge amounts of damage to the Salamence and helps with the speed control. You know, trying to keep.
So now we know that Choppa's Golden Go will be faster than
The
Jody's.
Golden Go will follow up with the Shadow Ball though, so a little bit of chip damage is going to hurt. The Golden Go is so
Ooh.
low as well. A little bit of return damage from the Life Orb as a Shadow Ball in retaliation.
And Choppa's has
Trying to
Life Orb,
knock
so
out
it's
the Golden
definitely
Go
dead
here.
this
It will
turn.
get the knockout,
Okay,
it
so
comes down to a very sticky situation.
Jody's
Don't forget,
Salamence
Choppa
protected
still has
once
that
already,
very,
so
very
Choppa's
low health
Tatsugiri
Meowscarada.
should be able to fire off an Icy Wind free of charge, unless the Salamence gets a double protect.
Certainly, Salamence not going to want to take an Icy Wind, and these Golden Go has been slowed down enough that it should easily be able to be knocked out by this Meowscarada here. You know, it was a nice knockout in the previous turn for Jody there, but it might have been Fool's Gold rather than Gold because it seems like Choppa's still the one who has the pin.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think
he's got
Choppa's
Tatsugiri.
Pokemon are both
The
faster
Salamence
right
not
now,
gonna
so
appreciate
if he can land these
Ice
last two
Wind
attacks, he should
doesn't
be
have
able to
access
win.
Terrestrialize to be the Steel type, which would have helped it out significantly, dropping to Ice Weak types. So it is in a very sticky situation.
Okay, so Golden Go
Will
protects,
protect
but
itself,
I wonder
maybe
what that
hoping
would
the Ice Wind
accomplish.
misses or something of that nature, as it will obviously go into the protect, cause some problems in that way. But it's going to connect on this Salamence, and that is an easy
Okay, so it
knockout
lands on the
when you're
Salamence.
super weak to a move of
And then the
that
next
type.
turn,
And Meowscarada just left to fire out the knockoff into the protect.
the next turn, Meowscarada is always going to be able to knock off the Golden Go,
Is click Sucker Punch.
although Tatsugiri isn't going to do much damage. And then
It's a really well played game.
Ah,
So a crucial turn where the Meowscarada
knockoff should kill the
this
Golden
whole
Go.
set was so close.
It was a really good set played by both, and Jody had a commanding game 1, but Choppa showed the depth of his team in games 2 and 3. It is going to be our first finalist, Choppa Cross, making a fantastic start to the Scarlet Violet era here in VGC, and you got to call it out. The Tatsugiri has won this game pretty much on its own without getting into the Dondozo's mouth. That is a very impressive show.
Yeah, Golden Go's
Understanding
special attack was
of how
lowered
these
too
teams
before,
work.
if I remember
Golden Go
correctly.
is finally knocked out by the knockoff. Choppa Cross will be our first finalist here in San Diego.
Alright. Alright, that game was a lot more intense and close than I remember it being. When getting into a new game, I think it's always useful to watch high-level matches, because if you really focus and you notice what kind of decisions that high-level players make, if you stop and try to understand why these high-level players make these kinds of decisions, it could prepare you to make better decisions when you start playing. So yeah, from this game, if anything surprised me, it's the fact that Dondozo didn't come in the match. I was a little pleasantly surprised with how well I was able to recognize the win conditions and what kind of matchups that each player wanted to be in, because besides Dondozo and Salamence, I was able to predict quite a few of the Pokemon they're going to pick to bring into the match pretty well. Now, of course, Salamence came in much more than I expected him to, but that's because Dondozo didn't come out. And the reason I think Dondozo didn't come out is maybe I didn't respect Palafin's Haze enough as a counter to Dondozo. Perhaps even though Palafin won't be doing that much damage to Dondozo, with Dondozo not having all of its stats boosted, its partner, Palafin's partner, probably could deal some damage. And then with Dondozo being the only Pokemon on the field, because Tatsugiri will be in its mouth, then it could probably actually get dealt with pretty handily with Palafin. I'm not too sure about that because it didn't actually play out, but then With Chuppa not bringing Dondozo in, that gave a lot more room for Salamence too. I guess Salamance's Draco Meteor could have been pretty effective against Dondozo in the end, but I was worried about Dondozo's coverage against Salamence, so then if Salamence terrored at the wrong time, then it could have gone pretty poorly. So yeah, those are the kinds of things I picked up from watching this match this time around from this semifinals. I hope this video was pretty useful to you in the end to try to see how you can learn things from higher level players. Even though everything I was saying was pretty messy, usually when I watch these kinds of matches, all the thinking goes on in my head and I don't try to think about how to form it into sentences. And I usually take a lot more pauses to give myself time to think and to really look at what's happening in the game at that moment. Anyway, if you guys liked what you saw here, consider leaving a like and subscribing. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next one.